Desmond, welcome to Laughing Monkey Music Show. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm here with you. I'm alive. I'm above ground. I'm safe so far, and grateful to be alive.
It's been a crazy year. The apocalypse we've been going through with the world's on fire, man. Hopefully it's gonna be better. You know, I'm hopeful.
Well, I guess there have been awful times through history, and good things sometimes come out of distress. Good music sometimes come comes out of like the worst times.
I agree with you. I
So
think
it helps us to take a second, more than a second, to be appreciative of what is going right.
I agree with you. I think in fact probably all the best songs have come from musicians that have had some kind of challenging backgrounds that kind of push forward. Have had their own difficulties. You are actually promoting your two albums, your two first albums right now, right? Let's talk about them.
Well, yes, and when I was in college at NYU, I started a group with my girlfriend at the time, Maria Vidal. We started a group called Desmond Child Rouge, along with Diana Griselli and Miriam Valley. And we played all the little clubs in New York City, and we'd stencil our names on the sidewalks and around the big record companies, and put our posters on top of other people's posters, and just plastered the city with our images. We'd come up with really clever, it was like a guerrilla warfare thing with the other acts. But we didn't care. I got arrested once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In those days, I heard the Irish mafia controlled the posters that went on the construction sites. That if you put a poster over one of their posters, you'd be in trouble, because they could track you down, because they'd have your name, they'd see where you were playing, what time you were playing. So somebody finally told us not to do it, and we realized, that it was probably a bad thing.
That probably is the worst crime to commit with all your information on it. You're like the worst criminal ever. Leaving your calling card behind.
Anyway, we got discovered at a place called Reno Sweeney. It was the kind of chic nightclub where all the, intelligentsia of New York City was hanging out, like Andy Warhol and, oh my God, Jacqueline Onassis, and, up and coming people like Allie Willis and Mark Shaman and Melissa Manchester and Ellen Green, and all of these people. We were all playing this little club on West 13th Street. And we got discovered there by Richard Landis, an A&R guy and producer at Capitol Records. And so he believed in us, and we made these two really fantastic albums all within a year. And we put out the first one, and then it was kind of a transition in music, because I don't know if you've seen the documentary called How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? It's the story of the Bee Gees. Right. It talked about how they had been, these kind of almost Beatlesque Australians that sang, brothers that sang in harmony. And then somewhere along the line, they discovered dance music, and they did the music to Saturday Night Fever, and they had, fantastic records. And then they also, they were at the top with Saturday Night Fever, one of the biggest selling records of all time. And then there was a DJ that went on the scene, Rick Dees, I think his name was, or is, and he said, that, disco music was evil, and they started going to these big athletic events, and he'd tell everyone to bring their disco records, and then they'd all run onto the field and throw them in a pile and burn them, like the Nazis burning books, that they didn't like. Forbidden books, so it was forbidden disco. And it was really, and explains it in this fantastic documentary on the Bee Gees, that it was a very racist and homophobic act. And,
Yeah.
you know, all of these kind of, you know, people that, you know, didn't go to clubs to dance, weren't in cities, they were out there in the heartland. All they wanted to do was listen to rock and roll. So it kind of gave birth in a way to the music that came in the 80s, because then it made room for Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and, you know, Rat and all the, you know, people and acts that then I worked with, but on the side, because my career was over, because we were combining rock with dance beats. And in fact, one of the most successful collaborations I had was with Paul Stanley of Kiss, and we co-wrote a song called I Was Made for Loving You. Motown dance beat and rock guitars. It was revolutionary and changed the course of pop music. It definitely did. And it was, you know, it's still to this day, Kiss's biggest international hit of all time. And so Paul Stanley used to come to see Desmond Child and Rouge, and at a place called Tracks on the Upper West Side on 72nd Street. You had to go downstairs, actually really, truly underground. And that's where George Harrison of the Beatles came to see us. And Paul would come all the time. And, you know, one night he said, hey, you know, why don't you and I try writing a song together? I said, okay, well, why don't you write a song with me for Desmond Child and Rouge, and I'll write a song with you for your band. You know, I didn't really know that much about Kiss, because it was kind of like, oh, that's what, you know, little kids with lunchboxes listen to or something. But, you know, they would play Madison Square Garden. They were like huge act. And okay, so we made the trade. He co-wrote a song with me called The Fight, which we co-wrote with David Landau. And I co-wrote a song with him called I Was Made for Loving You. And I think it turned out that I did better on the bet, you know, on the trade, you know, than he did. And to this day, it's one of the things that, you know, has, you know, kept me going financially, that the songwriting royalties from that song. So Desmond Child and Rouge made these two albums. We toured the country. We played every major city and out in the boonies too. And it was a, you know, kind of transition time for music, right? Because with this kind of anti-disco thing, and our music had like a strong R&B influence.
Oh yeah.
We found kind of a resistance. So I decided, okay, let's switch gears. And we made a rock record called Runners in the Night. That was revolutionary in its own way too. We worked very closely with G.E. Smith, the guitarist that was on Saturday Night Live for many years. And, you know, it was, and we actually went on Saturday Night Live as the musical guests. And the three girls I sang with went on Broadway with Gilda Radner in a show called Gilda Live from New York that ended up being a movie that one can watch called Gilda Live, directed by Mike Nichols. So we had the world on a string. Everything was happening. But personally, we were imploding. I mean, you know, it was a very, very stressful time for me, because I realized, you know, Maria and I, it was just Desmond and Maria, Desmond and Maria, Maria and Desmond, Desmond and Maria. We were the ones that were kind of, you know, the center of keeping Desmond Child and Rouge together. And we lived together in a tiny apartment that it was just a studio apartment, didn't even have a bedroom, you know, and we lived together for like 4.5 years while I was finishing college at NYU, and she was waitressing. She was a singing waitress at a place called Once Upon a Stove. And her waitress name was Gina Velvet. And so then later, she, you know, was, you know, she lives forever and living on a prayer, as the Gina works the diner all day. And so, awesome. So it was a fantastic time. But as I started growing up, because, you know, I was now 22, 23 years old, I realized that, before I thought I was kind of bisexual, kind of like I was so in love with her and I loved her and was attracted to her and all that, but I also had a strong attraction to guys. So I figured, oh, well, I'm like, rock stars like David Bowie and Mick Jagger, and like they can do whatever they want, they can be whatever, like now we call it, like binary, this and that. I don't even know the terms how they label themselves. But I started feeling, more like I was more gay than I was bi. And so that became a problem for Desmond Child Rouge because, she and I were the center of this group. And it was very heartbreaking to finally face that reality. So all of that process worked into the rock record called Runners
What
in the
year was
Night.
this? What year?
1979. And the lyrics, if you read the lyrics on that album, especially the opening song, "The Truth Comes Out," and it says, it's sort of like, it's all about, the truth comes out, no hiding now, and all that. It was my coming out song. And it was very, very powerful for me to become my true self, but it was very painful for her. So it was very hard to continue, as a group. And also at the time, I had people talking into my ear, saying, hey, what do you need those 3 girls for? That's kind of cheesy. You should, be like, Bruce Springsteen or something like that. And then on the other hand, every single one of them had somebody saying, what do you need those guys? What do you need that guy for? You're a star unto yourself. But our strength was all of us bringing the best of ourselves together. We didn't see that. I mean, not even a few years later, Prince came out with bands that had, girls in makeup and corsets, and, Madonna and George Michael. And, it's sort of like all of a sudden, it was like what we were doing, they eventually did, not because of us, but I mean, we were a little bit too ahead of our time.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough support within our managers or our record label and all that to see the specialness and the fun of what we were creating. And we weren't being encouraged. And, our insecurities and everything just got the better of us. But, if you go to our Instagram, Desmond Child and Rouge, or you go to our website, www.desmondchildandrouge.com, you will be in that very special year. You will be transported. Our bios don't go past that year. I live with Maria in that little room and going to NYU and playing all the little clubs. Really, it's like that song, The Hungry Years. It's like I had the most fun ever, laughed harder than ever, fell on the floor with my stomach hurting from laughing so many times with these 3 vivacious women that were clever, witty, just so amazing. And, to me, it's just like, it's just like was the best time. So now BMG reissued our 2 albums. Plus, this year we re-recorded Our Love Is Insane, our single that was reimagined it as a kind of more like dance, EDM, faster tempo. We recut it from scratch. We sang everything. The Rouge sounds better than ever. And that's called.
How fantastic does it feel to be with them? How fantastic to come full circle. It's got to be like priceless.
Yeah, so much fun. And it's called Our Love Is Insane XX because for 20, right?
Yeah. So
how it all started was 3 years ago. I got asked to do a live show, which I had always wanted to do, because I hadn't been performing in many decades. I was just a studio rat, working with other people, helping them, reach the heights of everything. And so I said, okay, I want to go back to New York, and there's a club there called 54 Below. And it's below the original Studio 54, a club that was playing our music, but we weren't allowed to get into because we didn't look cool enough. Hear our song being played inside. And the guy was like, no, sorry, come back another time. You know, we decided to re-record that, and we've been recording new material that no one's ever heard. And we're going to start dropping singles like crazy over the next, you know, for forever. You know, it's like we're not in the rat race of trying to get singles out and trying to sell an album and trying to sell a tour. I mean, no one's touring and now anyway, and won't for a while. So this has been a very creative time, I know, for everybody, and a rethinking of what it means to even make a record. You know, what are you making it for? Who's listening? How are they listening? Are they going to listen to a whole album? Or are they just going to listen to one song? And I've seen it, you know, in Nashville, it's really changed, where you have artists putting out what they call EPs, extended plays, of 4 songs, and then one of those radio will pick one to be the single, right? So then after 3.5 months of playing that out, they release another single with 3 more songs. So it's a second EP. And so it's like, oh, now there's new material that people will listen to. And then after that's done, they'll release another single that no one's heard before with the rest of the album going into, you know, Christmas. And the thing is, it's like you could have a single before, we'd do a single, and then 3 weeks later we'd put out the album. But now it's like, and people would buy the album, hear the whole album. But now people will hear the song they like, and then they'll go to another song they like. They're not sitting there religiously looking at the credits, knowing who's playing, who wrote the songs, why does this song go into the other song? Does the album have a concept, an
continuity? Yeah.
Continuity. That kind of went out the window. Because,
do you think it's because the age of people are, like, the generationally? Because I love a full album. I have vinyl. I'm 50. I love to get my hands on it and read the artwork. And like, I knew of you as much as I knew of all the other bands I was listening to. Everyone you were writing for, whether it was Rad or Bon Jovi, everyone, like, your name was as prevalent. So you were like out there from the beginning, because it was always about liner notes and reading. I mean, CDs got kind of hard to read with that small print, but you know what I'm saying? But nowadays, I don't think people care. It's like Spotify and iTunes. It's just about singles.
Oh, the attention span is short. You know, a few years ago, we started getting requests for 1-minute edits of songs, of singles, 1 minute. What? Yeah, for Japan.
I don't understand. Like just a song for a minute-long song?
Just 1 minute. You get one minute, 1 free minute on radio to promote your song. 1 minute. And then it goes to the next song. It's a free 1-minute commercial of your song. Because this way the attention span is so short, people don't even want to wait to the end of the song. So you'll hear like intro, verse, B section, chorus, then a little interlude, and then it goes right to the end. We don't know how much they got played or didn't get played. But
is it weird to chop up your songs like that?
No, we did whatever it took, you know, because like if you're going to put a song into a movie, they say, okay, give us a 2-minute version, give us a 1-minute version, give us a 30-second version. Put your best verse forward, put your best chorus forward, and then hope that somebody picks up on it and then goes home and then finds the entire song and then might lead them into all of your music. So it's been a tough time. Plus, you know, the streaming rates have been so low. A lot of brilliant people choose maybe not to be in this career because it doesn't pay. So people can be fantastic hobbyists and make amazing music at home. But, you know, something about having tour support and promotion and getting out there and seeing the world with your music makes your songs come out different, makes the next song you write, you know, about on the road again or whatever it is. It's like you're writing songs that go with the life of an artist, not just the life of the Unabomber just sitting there typing away. You know,
You're
it's
experiencing
like,
your life, and then you're writing about what you're living as you go through life. You know.
yeah. So when people stopped doing that and the COVID thing didn't help,
No.
then it's like music will be different. You know, people are going to have to use their creative imaginations rather than their life experiences to sing about things that are inspiring or you know, suspenseful or fun or lively or sexy even, you know, in ways that the person, it's all in their heads. It's all in their heads.
Yeah, everything's in our heads anyhow, right? The good and the bad.
Well, it literally is, because
Yeah.
you know, they even say what we see isn't out there. It's just how the light reflects into our brain and then we put it all together in our head. It's the same with music, but still, you know.
Bee Gees, big part of your influence or in the back of your mind when you were songwriting back then?
A little bit of that blue-eyed soul thing along with Hall and Oates. You know, they were like blue-eyed soul. So they were going off of the Philly sound, and the Bee Gees had their own. Maybe they were working in Philly. I don't know, but they set up camp in Miami, and at Criteria Studios with friend Albie Galutin, who's a dear friend. He's in the movie, and he was one of the co-producers, co-creators of this incredible style that was really chic. Absolutely, if you listen to those songs like that they wrote for Barbara Streisand on an album called Guilty. I mean, just play that loud, man. It's like, I don't hear music like that. I mean, it sounds so, so good. And, you know, it doesn't mean that I can't get down with, you know, hard rock or modern rock or any of those things, because they all have their own special world and they're speaking to their own, you know, kind of audiences. But I think one of the things that happened, you know, during the Clinton years is this kind of opening up, so a company could buy, you know, as many radio stations as they wanted to. Before, they didn't let more than, you know, somebody buy one or two radio stations. The government didn't want somebody controlling the media and putting out like a kind of messages that we hear now from networks and also, you know, in other ways online. So the taste of every program director was a little bit different. So the audiences would get to hear a variety of music in different locales. And also, let's say it was like Allman Brothers. Well, you hear more Allman Brothers in southern states, you know, because that was like southern rock.
Yep.
Or you hear more Mellencamp in the, you know, in the heartland. Or you hear more Fleetwood Mac, like on the West Coast. You know,
those are great. They could break it. You could break an album back then. Somebody could flip over the B side of something, and it could just pick up wind from the fans itself. Or you could take 2 or 3 albums to build a band, and not have to be triple platinum out of the gate and then gone in 5 years. I mean, you know.
Well, also I think there were these mega like moguls that owned the, you know, or were the heads of labels that were daring. You know, if Clive Davis liked your music, he would stick with you forever. And it wouldn't matter if like 3 or 4 albums failed, he'd keep going because he saw the vision. And usually he, you know, he was right. You know, Ahmet Ertegun, you know, Bob Krasnow, these people like had vision. And, you know, I'm not saying the people now don't have vision, but they really have corporate folks they have to answer to, and they have to look at bottom lines, and, you know, they can't have losers. So what they do is they have the A&R people trained to be surfing, you know, Spotify, searching for who's got the numbers. And if somebody zooms up, they're there, like 5 labels are there knocking on a door saying, sign with us. And that, you know, but that artist created themselves. They made it happen, you know, in their bedroom They made that stuff happen. And so then the labels have a lot to bring to the table once they get behind somebody, you know, in a lot of ways, because they also have, you know, their catalog of music that's still selling that funds today.
Right.
And, you know, remember the labels always had a bigger share of everything, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, they would say, well, hey, look at the overhead we have. You, on the other hand, wrote your song on a banjo, smoking a corn pipe, you know, in the backwoods. What's your overhead? So we got to have more than you to pay for all of this power, you know, to make, you know, some folky, you know, from Muskogee a big star.
I can see that.
So that's why, you know, it's like, you know, people can say, okay, the publishers may be, you know, they're unfair, or the labels are unfair, you know, but on the other hand, you know, they bring a lot to the table, and they do have higher overhead, you know, than an individual person. So, you know, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle. And basically also, for every 100 acts, you know, that Clive Davis put out, maybe 10 of them became big stars.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone's meant to be a big star, no matter how good you are, for a lot of reasons. Like, I didn't become a big star. You know, and once I started co-writing with bands and making money and being successful, I got a different kind of respect, you know, that I longed for. But I still, you know, I still sing. I still want to put out records that I'm singing. You know,
I actually just listened to one of them. It was the last one you just did. It was great. You're singing your songs, and you're kind of like taking the piss out of people too. You're really funny about it too. I really enjoy it. Your little comments.
That's my live album called Desmond Child Rouge.
That is actually fun. So I recommend that. That's
yeah. So, you know, it's like, I'm lucky that I have BMG rights, because they believe in me, and they're not, you know, they're not looking at, you know, whether I'm turning a profit or not. You know, I'm not going crazy. And, you know, most of the things I do, I'm putting up my own money for anyway. But it's nice to have a home to be able to put your songs and know that you can go and download a song, and my co-writers will get paid if it sells. And, you know, I don't have to do the paperwork and all of that. So I'm very lucky, you know, that I have this kind of home at BMG, and they're very entrepreneurial and supporting entrepreneurs like me. And I think that that's a wonderful place. And, you know, they're not doing so bad. They're doing great, you
That's a good thing.
with this kind of like very open door policy that they have.
I think, the industry's changed, but I think it was really amazing. I don't think you get enough credit for is coming out, we said in 79, in the rock music industry, the most heterosexual industry at that time, coming out was pretty big. And it, you know, it was awesome. It was groundbreaking on a lot of levels, you know? I mean, how hard was it to push your way through? I mean,
well, there was always a glass ceiling when it came to me producing male rock bands. You know, so I'd always get solo artists like Cher, Michael Bolton, Alice Cooper, Joan Jett, you know, people like that. And then later Ricky Martin, Katy Perry, Carrie Underwood.
Those are all pretty good. I mean, I know back then a lot of producers held on to their artists. They locked down. You didn't really get a lot of producers out in those back then.
No, I mean, as a producer, there was a glass ceiling for me because bands were okay co-writing with me because there was kind of equality. But the truth is, once you're the producer, you're the big man. You're the boss. And, you know, somehow they didn't want a gay guy being their boss, you know? And so the truth is that there were no gay record producers out once until Linda Perry came along. So I was the only one out there for decades, you know, and I knew maybe some dance remixer DJ guys that were gay that might have been working with Madonna or something. But for what I did in pop and rock, you know, there was nothing out there. And in that way, I've been kind of revolutionary.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of your history. I mean, that's as big
but
as
I still think it's that way. I still think it's that way. It hasn't changed really. How many gay producers are there? They're out. It's me and Linda Perry. Hello. You know, that's it, really. I don't hear of gay guys out there producing hit records. Where? Who? You know why I think? Because a lot of those producers were the buddies, the drinking buddies of the A&R guys, who then threw the work at them. And then afterwards, they'd go to their, you know, strip joints and do coke and, you know, all that kind of stuff that, you know, guys do, go to sports and all those kinds of things. And so, you know, when they had success, they'd get more work. And then, you know, I was pushed out. There's no room for me there. But yet, you know, my name would be attached as a co-writer.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but, you know, I did okay with the kind of, you know, outcasts that I was working with: Meatloaf, Alice Cooper, Joan Jett, Cher. I mean, think about all those, you know, Ronnie Spector. Think about all of those artists. You know, they are very unique icons unto themselves. Ricky Martin, you know, and Katy Perry. Like I said before, you know, it's like solo artists were okay with that, you know, and especially female ones. They didn't care that I was gay. I was less of a threat. No Me Too from me. No Me Too situations.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I'm laughing at the whole threat thing. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. You're a good songwriter. I don't think, you know, the whole wall of it is insane. And I'm hoping things are going to change more. But, you know, I'm sure you're right on the button and the money as far as how closed-minded the industry still is, you know.
Well, you know, it's like people, they're, you know, they're very cool, you know, new acts that are out there that are, you know, crossing the line, you know, with transgender and all of these things. And they're changing it for themselves and they're producing their own records. So, you know, because they have, you know, they can be self-contained. On the other hand, you know, once we were able to get marriage rights, you know, and I've been with my husband for 32 years. And then finally, we had twin sons through a surrogate mother and an egg donor and all that. In fact, there's a documentary about our process, our journey, called TWO, The Story of Roman and Nero, NYRO. He's named after Laura Nero. And if you go to www.2TWOthedocumentary.com, you know, that lead you to Amazon Prime or iTunes or wherever it's still playing. And, you know, it took us to, you know, that documentary was like a 12-year journey of us wanting to have children, of us searching and finally meeting our surrogate mom in India. And, you know, she was an American that was part of this Deepak Chopra conference that we attended. And just, it was so magical. So many things happen. You know, it's like everybody thinks that, you know, their child has like this, you know, it's like the holy birth, you know. And ours, you know, came into this world in a special way. But everything that led to it seemed just as spiritual and special as anybody else's story. And so I think
purposeful.
Yeah. So finally in 2013, we were able to get married right when our documentary came out. And it's a cool documentary because our sons are little, but they were like 9 years old when they um, were the narrators of the film. And so now they're at NYU, and they're like 18 years old. And that's where I went to school, at NYU. And so I'm very proud of them. But what I was going to say is when we got marriage rights, then all of these people that were like not liking us being gay, like really went on the high horse, because then we were actually as equal as them. And they were saying, well, they're, you know, making marriage, you know, like defaming it or disgracing it by marrying gay people. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Like Canada already had it forever and the sky didn't fall through. And now we've had it since 2013 and it's like, who cares? But still, they're trying, you know, these people, I mean, they're trying to turn the election, you know.
I know. In the bathrooms, you know.
That's the same folks, you know, now they, you know, they'll probably, you know, go after marriage rights and other things, try to bring it down because they don't like it. Not that what we do hurts them at all. You know, we're not really hurt. And if the fact that my husband and I are happily married for 32 years and some other people out there that have been married 3 or 4 times find it a problem staying married because we exist, it's like, guys, it's not us, it's you. Well, because we were, you know, they saw so much love around them, you know, I mean, they had it not only from us, but, you know, our family of choice, all these loving people that they grew up with. You know, they're not going to be going to a therapist saying they didn't love me and all that kind of stuff. That just, you know, I don't know what they would complain about. Maybe they made me go to so many Broadway shows. They made us dress in matching outfits with funny hats. You know, I grew up poor in the projects of Miami. My mom was a Cuban immigrant, single mom, held down, couldn't hardly hold down a job, but the ones she did hold down were very low paying. Like she worked at Burger King for a long time, and that's what we ate every night when she'd come home. It's kind of soggy Whoppers. The bottoms were like mush, so we'd take 2 tops and kind of make that one, and that's what we eat at, you know, 11 o'clock at night when she got home. And in the meantime, we ate like cereal that we poured ourselves, you know. So it was like I grew up, you know, in a very mixed but sometimes very dangerous neighborhood. So, you know, she was a songwriter and a poet, and she was very beautiful, but she couldn't really speak English that well. And so she really struggled in this country to do anything. And so I've been working on putting all of her poetry and lyrics together. She died in 2012. And that year I co-founded the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame in her honor, along with Rudy Perez, my co-founder. And we're in our 8th year. And it's under the, you know, we styled our, you know, kind of sculpted ourselves after the Songwriters Hall of Fame in New York, which I also, thank God, my mother got to see me get inducted before she passed. But, you know, it was like one of those things, it's like, there was no B plan. You know, and sometimes I say to people in the master classes that I give, it's like, okay, this is, you want to do music, that's your A plan. What's your B plan? And people will say, you know, whatever it is. And I say, okay, do your B plan. If you have a B plan, get out, you know, get out now. Because, you know, it takes such single vision and determination. And, you know, some people have more talent than others, but that you can't really control. That's, you know, kind of nature's gift to you, right? But you can control the amount of ambition that you know, drive in yourself to follow through, to, keep trying to write better songs, even if you're not the best, to try to sing better, to try to play instruments better, to try to program, be very self-sufficient, do, you know, as much as you can so you're not depending and waiting around for other people to co-write a song with you. Write the song, like now, you know, figure out, you know, read a lot of poetry, figure out lyrics, read everything Bob Dylan ever wrote, and Joni Mitchell and Laura Nero. You know, that's all that, you know, that's a good education right there.
I'd say grew up, my stepmom turned me on to Eli and the 13 Steps. Is that the album?
Eli and the 13 Confessions.
Oh, Confessions, that's right.
So like a great album. Each song, I think there were 13 songs. Each song was a confession. And that's, yeah, I first heard that when a snowbird friend of mine on Miami Beach, I met her like in the lower lobby of the Fontainebleau Hotel, and her parents had a cabana upstairs. And so she, you know, the thing is that her dad, you know, was Jerry Wexler, who was the producer that produced Aretha Franklin. Okay. And many other acts. And they were, he and Tom Dowd or Reef Martin, you know, they were producing records at Criteria. So they had a house that they rented, I think, on the water, you know, where she lived, but they had the cabana at the hotel where they would go and swim in the pool and whatnot. But they had a house. And so she invited me to her house for dinner all the time. And there I'd be sitting at the table with, you know, Jerry Wexler, Tom Dowd, Arif Martin, sometimes Ahmet Ertegun would fly down, and she'd be like pulling on my shirt, like, let's get out of here, let's get out of here. So I'd go to her bedroom, and she had like the original printings that no one even heard of Led Zeppelin albums, you know, that she was playing me. Because, you know, they were just like what the dad was listening to. He said, oh, well, tell me what you think of this. You know, before, like way before it came out.
Oh, and the test pressings and stuff?
Test pressings, yeah. And she played me Laura Nero and that album, Eli and the 13 Confessions. And I was like, that Laura Nero's voice and energy and her lyrics and her sonics, everything touched me. And I said, that's what I want to do. And, you know, so
I think that album should be a must listen to if you're gonna be a songwriter. I mean, I think
I love that album. And the next album is this like very dark album that she wrote called New York Tenderberry. And the next one after that, it's like The Sun Came Back Out with Christmas and the Beads of Sweat. Those three albums are like just killer. And every girl you see up there, Sarah Bareilles or Fiona Apple or anybody that you see up there, you know, girl playing piano, singing, could not have happened without Laura Nero having happened. In fact, I once had dinner with Joni Mitchell, and I was at one end of the table, she was the other end of the table, and as people kept getting up, this was at the Monkey Club in LA, you know, they'd get up and go do drugs or in the bathroom or whatever. I kept moving down, getting closer and closer. Me and Diane Warren. So it was like me and then Diane next to me, and we get closer and closer. Finally, it was just the three of us. She was at the head of the table. It was her birthday. And, you know, she handed me a joint, and it's like, I was still a little bit, I don't know, like kind of prim and proper or whatever. And I was kind of like passing it to Diane. She kicked me under the table. She says, it's fucking Joni Mitchell, smoke it. You know, so I was like holding it really weird and stuff. But then I got a chance to ask her, well, you know, did you ever listen to the music of Laura Nero? What was that like for you? And she said, I would not have started playing piano had I not listened to Laura Nero.
Oh, that is great to hear.
And, you know, she was always this amazing guitarist, folk guitarist. And she had studied piano as a little girl, but she hadn't taken up piano until she heard Joni Mitchell. And then she made an album called Blue.
Yep.
That is very moody and a little tribute-esque of Laura Nero. And that made me feel so good that even Joni Mitchell was influenced by Laura Nero.
That is
so
fantastic.
When my son was born, I named him Nero, Nyro.
That's
And
pretty
he's
cool,
like
man.
the only person on earth whose first name is Nero. I mean, it's just
Well,
no
when
one.
I actually heard that and I read Nero, the first thing I thought of was Lord Nero. I gotta ask him because
Yeah.
how could you not be? How can you be a songwriter and not listen to Laura?
And,
And
his
appreciate
whole life, he always said, "Why did you name me Nero? Why did you name me after a lesbian folk singer?" And I said, "Well, Dylan was taken." A lot of
you.
things. I've been co-writing a Broadway show called Cuba Libre with my collaborator David Sigerson. We've been working on it. It's like it's taking longer than the Sistine Chapel, no joke, since 2005. I'm writing it. That one's the true story of my family before and after the Cuban Revolution. It's a fantastic story about my two beautiful aunts who were my mother's younger sisters. And one, at a very early age, when she was 19, 20, became the lover of Batista, the dictator who was the president. And then the other one, who was still younger, she became the lover of Castro after
What?
the revolution. Yeah. So it's two sisters, two dictators, one island. You
That's
do the
insane.
math.
No.
Yeah. And so there's sisterly rivalry, their bonds, their family bonds, politics, one going from one world to the other. We sort of call it Les Mis with bongos. It's like massive, like, historic musical, and with these beautiful, vivacious leads in it. So we've been doing that, and I've also been co-writing with Carolyn Bryant and Sharon Vaughn, the story of Boudleaux and Felice Bryant, who were the first professional songwriters in Nashville. And they co-wrote all these songs that were performed by the biggest stars then, but especially the Everly Brothers.
Okay.
Like Bye Bye Love, and oh my God, there's so many. And they co-wrote that beautiful song Love Hurts that Nazareth sang, and Roy Orbison and all this. So we're writing their love story. And so it's been a lot of fun. That's what we've been doing all this whole COVID period,
Still Nashville.
because the catalog is so deep with Boudleaux and Felice Bryant, and their love story so touching. And she was Sicilian. She was kind of dark Sicilian, and he, I think had some Native American thing in him. And when they got here, they pulled in with their trailer and their two kids into a trailer park that said, "No Negroes or Italians." And they had a hit song on the radio. And so then they convinced the owner that, they could pay them because they had the hit song called Country Boy that was playing at the time. And, kind of everyone fell in love with them. So they were breaking down barriers even then. This is like, late 40s in Nashville.
That is
It was
groundbreaking.
it was, and even country music to this day is not, has not been an open place for people of color,
I can see that. You moved to Nashville you're in LA for a while, right? And you moved to Nashville a couple
I
years ago.
moved here when Rock died. That was 94, because I'd heard, it's like all the acts I was working on just like suddenly weren't on MTV or weren't getting played on the radio.
Yep.
So they all started doing compilations, all of them, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Michael Bolton, Foreigner, everybody was already on the third compilation by 92, 93. And, I had to reinvent myself. So I'd heard some music. It sounded like Bon Jovi, except the guy singing seemed to have a twang. And that was Garth Brooks.
No.
So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to Nashville and I'm going to get Garth Brooks to sing one of my songs. So I looked on his album and I found the name Victoria Shaw. And I said, I'm going to co-write with her. and she was the first person I co-wrote with, and accepted me 100%. And she had written The River and other songs with and for Garth. And we wrote a song called Where Your Road Leads. And Garth sang it as a duet with Trisha Yearwood.
Was it different writing country music for you?
Well, no, I mean, it's storytelling.
Well, I get that. I mean, you are the best storyteller. I mean, all your songs have, you're like miniature movies in your head, and I visualize them. I mean,
there's incredible, there are incredible artists here that, there is, of course, just like in pop music, it can be, radio will only play a kind of narrow field, and what those people are representing and what they're singing is very, kind of what it is, and people that are a little bit different, falling off on the sides, can still have amazing careers. But it doesn't mean that country radio will play it, because their constituents don't want to hear from, Black people or gay people or any kind of other people, Latin people. They just, are more comfortable with people more like themselves. And, that's why it's been very, very hard for people to come into Nashville and say, okay, I'm, someone from, a different ethnic background than everybody else, and I want to make it here because I love country music so much. And it's just not easy at all,
Oh,
And, I'm a bit different, and I've been here since '94, and it's like, I never feel like I'm really accepted by the community. I feel, always a bit on the outside, and, for all the same reasons, and I get some respect because a lot of them are influenced by the, songs I've, co-written with, big bands like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith. There, you can hear the influence, but, it doesn't mean they want to co-write with me. And
that's crazy.
So I'm fine, because this was a beautiful, wonderful place to raise our children. And I'm very, happy with our friends. And Nashville in itself is cosmopolitan. It's a blue county. So I feel free here. I feel
That's
okay.
good.
I'm on the board of ASCAP, and I attended the Contemporary Christian Music Awards a couple of years ago. And they kind of acknowledged me from the stage, and they said, well, there's Desmond Child. He wrote one of the biggest, worship songs of all time, Living on a Prayer, for one second. But that's pretty funny.
It's really funny, especially the context of it. Now, because isn't there a line in that song, is there truth to it? Was there like, you were involved? This is like not a cult, but was something that was infecting some of the lines in the song in Living on a Prayer? Does it make it, if we make it or not? Is that true?
It's like, it doesn't make a difference if we make it or not.
Yes.
That line was coming out of this kind of philosophy, out of a cult that I was living in at the time in upstate New York. And doesn't make a difference if we make it or not. The leader of it would always be saying, kind of with this blank stare, cold blue eyes, well, it doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. The truth is the truth. Doesn't make a difference what anyone thinks, kind of like, doesn't make a difference if we make it or not make it. It's like he had like the Zen kind of thing, and it made it into the song. And but it kind of worked because it said we got each other, and that's a lot for love. We'll give it a shot. So it's like, we'll try even if we don't make it. And that kind of was a beautiful kind of strange influence, into the song. But John and Richie helped bring it together with this complete thought. So I'm very happy. I mean, whatever I lost, having been in, time and everything, it was made up for by the writing of that song.
That's good. I mean,
it was very difficult for me because I wanted to be in a family so bad. So when I left there, as soon as I left there, I met Curtis and we started our family.
Oh.
And so that's what I was looking for. I was looking for love. I just
took
didn't,
advantage of that.
looking in the wrong places.
But you got a good song idea, though. I think that's one thing you talked about earlier about not being able to live and be outside of the world and write songs. You've taken all your experiences, and you tether them back into something your song. I mean, that's, is it different when you write with different artists? Do different artists have like a different way of doing things? I mean,
well, I'm there for them, so I'm kind of like I'll morph into whatever makes them comfortable. But I'm still myself inside. But
right.
I may dress a certain way if I know I'm working with one act or another. I may speak more. I listen to them speak, and I'll speak more in their style.
Make them comfortable.
To make them comfortable, and that's kind of survival skills. Did you see that movie called My Octopus Teacher?
No.
Oh, it's a must. It's a documentary about this guy that spent a year observing this one octopus and the relationship he developed with the octopus.
I've seen the preview for that. That is actually, okay, I know that's the name of it. Yeah,
that's a must. So this octopus, I mean, you see it kind of land on something and all of a sudden it'll camouflage itself to look exactly like the rock that it's on, and then suddenly fly off and then land on something else, completely change the texture, the color, everything of how it looks. I mean, it's amazing that this invertebrate has such strong survival skills. And so I think of myself a little bit like that. It's like whatever I land on, that's me. And nothing else is in my thoughts.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, yeah, you've written. I look at a lot of the artists you've done. I think part of it's almost like being like a psychologist because you got to come in, address the room, assimilate a little bit to make them comfortable, but also be you, find a balance, But you've written for like
empathy is the main thing. It's like I was given maybe by being gay or whatever, I have a feminine side that has a lot of empathy and nurturing and want to take care of people. So that has been helpful. When people meet me, they know that they're safe with me and they can tell me their deepest secrets and all that, and they know I won't tell them till my biography comes out.
It's right. You're in the works, right?
Yeah. It's called Living on a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life with David Ritz. So I'm very excited about
When's
it.
that coming?
Well, it's like we finished it 2 years ago and I've been trying to get a publishing deal and I've had, a hard time because they've been offered, but they don't offer any money in advance. And they give every excuse in the book. And then I say, okay, don't worry about the money. What are you going to do for me? And they can't say what they would do. So in the end, I'm going to give you 75% of ownership in my book for life of copyright. And then whatever dollar comes in, you get 75 cents. And then I pay off whatever pittance you gave me as an advance for my 25 cents. I'll never recoup. I mean, it's like, and give away my story just like that. It's like,
can you do it yourself? Can you just independently do it?
Yeah, that Amazon and Ingram Books and all that, they have self-publishing things. And I was on my way to do it. And then David called me and he said he had a lead with somebody at a big publishing company. And he had just put out a couple of books. One of them is the Lenny Kravitz book and another one on Willie Nelson. And he says that they're interested. So I'm waiting for this election COVID moment to be done. And maybe in the next few weeks, they might tell me if they're serious. If not, it's right to Amazon.
I would say, I think you should keep looking because it would be fantastic because anything you recoup is going to be you, 100% you. You'll control it. It's you.
Yeah, I think I've already done all the research. The book is ready to go, but if for some reason these people convince me that, look, we're going to do this, this, and this for you, and we're going to give you this much advance because we know that, if you sell 10,000 books at, let's say it's $10 each, that's a lot of money when people have million sellers,
Do they have
so
nowadays? I don't even know how the book industry is anymore because everything's on Kindle. I don't even know.
yeah, but you have to pay for that, and
The overhead's got to be better though, right? I mean, if you're selling the same book for almost $16 on Amazon and you're selling it virtually, so it costs them nothing. So it's like a $16 profit. You're not even, there's nothing. It's like you're pressing a button.
Some people really like having a book. Like, I'm surrounded by books I haven't read. I don't know. It's so dumb. Things I would redo. I would learn how to play guitar. I would learn how to speed read, at least a little bit faster. I would learn how to program. I would learn how to use Pro Tools instead of hiring other people to do it. I would want to be way more self-sufficient. I would want to learn other languages like Italian, French, Hungarian, German, Swedish. Go to Sweden and understand what my friends are saying. Why are they laughing? There's so much I would have wanted to do, but I did what I could. I've written over 4,000 songs in my life.
That's pretty ambitious. That's really ambitious.
And of those, like maybe 1,000 have gotten recorded. So 1 out of every 4 got recorded. Of those 1,000 songs that were recorded, 80 made it onto the top 40. And of those, only maybe like 15 made it into the top 10. And of those, who knows, 7 or 8 were number ones or something. So it took, 4,000 songs to come up with,
to whittle down.
Well,
but it's never too late to do these things, though,
It's like the outlier miles, whatever the outlier, the 10,000 outlier hours.
Oh, yeah.
Put into something to be great at it. Well, I did it. I did more than 10,000. But, sometimes when I talk to, people that want to be recording artists, or they come to me and I say, well, how many songs have you written? They said, well, I've written maybe like 5 songs. And it's like, what? And now you want to co-write with me? Who's going to be actually writing the song?
Now you singer, obviously. You have a really nice voice, and you're a piano player. I'm surprised so you don't play guitar at all?
No, my mother was a guitarist.
It's not it's not too late. It's not too late. You start playing now. I just started playing 2 years ago.
I just don't want calluses.
You do it long enough to get small.
When I did try, it was like, oh, this hurts, But my mother was a guitarist, and the symbol of the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame is a sculpture of her from 1954 of her playing guitar. So that's the honor that we give the
that's so nice
inductees. And
that's so
Turner, bring me one of those Musa things right there.
I love the fact that you don't want to get calluses. You could do it, man. It's so much fun. I think you'd be really good at it.
I've got these they look big, but I don't have really like big hands, so this is La Musa Awards winner.
That is really pretty.
That's a sculpture of my mother. She was very beautiful, and she was known as La Musa. So it's La Musa Awards. And if you go on latinsonghall.org, you can find out all about our next gala, which is going to be at the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida on October 21st, COVID willing.
Excellent.
And so, I do a lot of things like that. I'm on the Songwriters Hall of Fame board. I co-founded the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. I'm on the ASCAP board, And I'm involved with the Fountains of Musica Foundation, helping to get fountains around the bronze statues at the entrance to Music Row. That it was like unfinished. 7 mayors later, we still don't have the fountains, but I'm trying to help raise the money and get the city to get behind us. There's so many things, it's like to do. And I did it because I wanted to be more a part of the Nashville community, and it really worked because I've met people from all walks of life now, not just people in music. So it's very rich, and also our son's going to high school. They went to Ensworth, and we met a lot of parents and other, our kids, have friends for life now. So Nashville's been good for me, also it's kept me focused too, because in New York or LA, I'm like, wow, I want to do everything. I want to be out there. I want to be out all night. I want to, do all these things. This is more kind of like a more balanced life.
That is important, I think. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time. I do want to acknowledge 2 things though before we end this. 2 underrated albums that you did. Actually, I'm sorry, 2 questions. Before I do that, the song Hide Your Heart. Everybody covered it like in 88, 89. How did that happen? I couldn't find any information anywhere. And it's always like, I always had that question. I'm like, especially that Ace did it and Kiss together, and they weren't together at the same time.
Well, this is how it happened. I was looking for songs for Bonnie Tyler. So I was co-writing with Paul Stanley, and he brought in a song that he had started with Holly Knight. And the song was called Bite Down Hard. And, it already had like amazing elements. And so Paul called Holly and said, hey, I'm here with Desmond. Can we finish this song? And she said, great, fine. So that became Hide Your Heart instead of Bite Down Hard, and it was more kind of easier to take,
Oh yeah.
Bite Down Hard, better Hide Your Heart. So I recorded it with Bonnie Tyler, and it's one of the best versions. It's the first version. It's her version. I mean, Holly gave me a song to record called The Best. You're simply the best.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
2 years before Tina Turner did it. Okay.
Oh.
And so I had Hide Your Heart and other amazing songs on this record. Then, of course, the label was having all kinds of problems between UK and New York and this and that. And her record fell through the cracks, and they told me, well, she doesn't have any hits. Then, of course, The Best became like the biggest song of all time.
Yeah.
But Hide Your Heart, it just like bugged me that it didn't make it. So I cut it with another artist. Oh my God.
Robin? Was it you, Robin?
Robin Beck. I didn't cut it with Cher, but I cut it other Bonnie Tyler songs with Cher as well, like Just Like Jesse James and Don't Turn Around, not Don't Turn Around. Jesus, Save Up All Your Tears. All these songs that were originally on Bonnie's record. So that's the thing. It was like that song, Hide Your Heart, then Ace heard it and cut it. And then I think Paul decided, because he was a co-writer, hey, I'm going to do it. And, I don't know how many other versions there were, but there were like 4 out like the same year of that one song. That was like the old days when Frank Sinatra would sing, Strangers in the Night, and Tony Bennett would sing it, and, Sarah Vaughan would sing it, and, everybody would sing that same song, and everybody's version was a hit, and because everybody wanted to hear their interpretation of it. So that was fun.
It was interesting. I remember back then, because I know Ace and Kiss had a weird relationship at the time too, so they weren't together. It's been kind of love-hate. So that one covering the song, the other one covering was like, am I trying to one-up you? Are you trying to show them this? Is it just kind of fun competition? Kind of felt playful, at best.
I don't know if there's anything playful about Gene Simmons,
Well,
but no, actually, he's a very funny guy, and has been a great ally and friend. But he can be very serious. Let me just put it that way.
he's a smart
Um,
man.
I don't know really what was happening between them. I was like already. But one thing we haven't talked about is this song I had out this year that was a hit and made it my sixth decade of #1 hits, and
Yeah.
that's called "Kings and Queens" by Ava Max. You have to
Oh,
hear
I
it.
didn't get to. Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah, "Kings and
Okay.
Queens" by Ava Max. And
Congratulations.
it really is an interpolation of my original hit, "If You Were a Woman and I Was a Man," that I wrote for Bonnie Tyler, that Jim Steinman had produced, and it was a hit in Europe. And this song is like, is like exact, so the choruses, so melodically and all that, and also when I went to co-write "You Give Love a Bad Name," elements of that song from Bonnie's song, which I had solely written, made it into that song. So it's a tale of three hits with a similar melody.
That's great.
Diane Warren once called me and she said, "Would you please stop writing those, with those same three chords? I'm going to kill you." But every time
I,
I did, it was a hit.
I think obviously you had a bunch of big songs, but you've had a couple albums. I think, and I'm sure you've had some stuff you're like, man, I wish it was bigger. You had two albums that I think were great. I think when you did Rat's album, you wrote a bunch of songs for Rat, the Detonator. Those were
Detonator.
some great. Those were some great songs. Give
Yeah.
Yourself Away. I think it was
Yeah.
one of yours. There's just something
Yes.
about it was so different, and it worked with Steven's voice. It was just had a mood to it. That
Yeah.
was my favorite Rat album, and I mean I liked Rat. And when this came out, and it was very on grunge too. I was like, oh, and this album was just so different. It felt meatier.
Loving you's a dirty job,
Yeah,
and
there's something.
and to do it.
That album I think should have been bigger, and I also think that the Scorpions' "Humanity Hour One" was
It's a
underrated. I think
masterpiece.
it was. I agree with you. I think Scorpions fans don't appreciate it. I love it. I just think it's
And there's two more of my favorite albums: "Black Roses" by the Rasmus
okay. Not
and
familiar.
"Bat Out of Hell 3," Meatloaf, masterpiece.
Yep.
Like one of the most expensive albums made of all time.
Was it?
It's like $2 million to make that album. We're like right there with Guns N' Roses. Yeah.
It is a good album.
Crazy way to make a record.
I do say that yeah, those are for me though. Those were the two growing up, and I was like, how are these not monsters? These are the most. These albums are fantastic, and
And also my album Discipline was really
yeah.
good.
Well, everything is really good. I'm just saying. I mean, I think a lot of stuff fell under the radar of that. I was surprised. You know what I mean? At that point, that those bands were as big as they were, that I didn't just catch on fire like huge.
Well, it was that time. When I finally got around to producing bands, the era was over. So there was like, what more could I do? The Rat record that all came out after in the 90s.
Yeah, early '90s,
Already
and
music had
yeah.
changed, and those bands weren't getting on MTV. And if you weren't getting on MTV, you didn't exist.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've had a very, amazing career, and I'm lucky and unlucky. I didn't make it to be a giant star, but if I had, I'd probably be dead. With my temper and how thin-skinned I am, I just.
Well, you are a giant star. You're not a rock star. You're a musician, and I think that's credible, and it carries longer. Rock
No,
stars to
but
the 27 Club.
I would love to sing on a stage and have like really amazing sound and lights on me, and I really love to sing and emote. And well, it's not over. It's not over till it's over.
It is a crime because I mean you are a really good singer, so you should be singing on more of your songs. I mean,
Well, I have to forget about the idea that there's a time limit on music and on being cool, because that held me down for a long time. Everyone would say, well, you're already too old. And I was in my 30s and people saying you're too old. You know, it's
You
like,
don't even, your kids can tell you you're not cool. That's when you have kids, they tell you you're not cool.
that's what we have kids for, exactly.
That's right.
So thank you so much for having me on your
Well,
show.
thank you.
And
You're
I
the best,
want to
man.
remind everybody to religiously follow me on Instagram at desmond.child. And I respond. I'm on it nonstop. Under the covers, I'm like doing it. Like my husband's like, shut it off, shut it off. And I can't. I'm loyal to my fans and they're all around the world. So they're up 24/7. And I love that. And also follow Desmond Child at Desmond Child Rouge and time travel to 1979. Go on our website. There's a little video of a documentary of us called The Story of Desmond Child Rouge, our
Hmm.
story in there. And it's way, way fun.
Yeah, it is.
So it's like all of that's going to come together someday. Maybe it'll all be like an amazing movie. Maybe I'll put it together as like amazing movie. Me kind of being this kid that was different, that kind of on the outside and wove myself through the fabric of the music of our time.
Your whole
So
life is quite a story. So, I mean, and yeah, I'll put all the links underneath this too. So everybody can just click on them right from underneath here and go right to it. They're all great. I've put on all the stuff. It's fantastic. As you are, Desmond, I
well,
thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Here's a COVID hug.
Yeah,
Here's
thank
a
you.
COVID hug.
Good hug. Thank you, man. You're the best. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time. All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Stay safe.
Okay. You too.